This acrylic painting tutorial will teach you the basics of painting, such as mixing tints, mixing shades, and creating areas of dark and light with your paintbrush. If you love art and love to learn about art, don't forget to subscribe. This is part 2 of the Tree of Life artwork. To learn how to draw a tree, click the link above to watch part 1. The first acrylic painting technique is how to make a tint, T-I-N-T. A tint is a color that is mixed with white. I'll be using blue as my base color, but you can choose any color that you would like. You can mix the paint either in your palette or directly on the paper. I start by putting my base color right in a corner of the section I want it, and then I clean my brush. You're then gonna dip your brush in your white paint, make sure it's clean and dry by wiping it on a paper towel. And you can mix it either here on the palette, or I'm also gonna show you how to mix it directly on your paper. This is gonna give it kind of a fade effect, like it's going from dark to light. And you're gonna spread out your paint to fill in your sections with a small brush, making sure to stay inside the lines. Teacher fail, I don't clean my brush before dipping it in the blue. It doesn't leave a lot of paint left behind, but in a school situation where you are sharing paint, you want to make sure that you wash your brush every single time. So don't be like me, don't have a teacher fail, make sure to clean your brush each time. You can see that adding a little bit more blue to that area of mixed paint makes it darker. And so remember, a tint is a base color mixed with white. So you can play around with how much white you use, how much base color you use, and it's gonna make areas of blue that get lighter as you add more white paint. Enjoy the process of mixing, adding blue, adding white to your one area on your palette, and just make sure you spread the tints around your paper. We will be learning how to make shades, and so you don't want all the tints of blue in one section. You want to kind of balance it out by spreading it throughout your work of art. Notice I'm just using 3 areas on my palette. I'm trying to keep my white completely separate from my blue, and then I'm just mixing in that one section just to get a variety of tints. It's time to level up. Next, I'm going to teach you how to paint a gradient. A gradient is like shading with your paintbrush. So start with your base color, put it in one section or corner, and make sure to use enough paint so it doesn't dry before you start blending. Clean and dry your brush, and then you're going to dip it in your white paint, and you're going to not quite touch the blue yet. After you have your white paint, go down into your blue section and blend it so it goes from your white to your lighter blue, and then leave the bottom untouched so it goes dark. Keep blending up so that the white paint gets lighter as it goes away from your blue. Wash your brush again, make sure it's dry, dip it in the white, and then you're going to do the top section even lighter so it's fading from light to dark. Dip your brush in your blue again, and this is going to give it an effect like it's dark on the end so it looks really three-dimensional, and fade your blue into that next section of white. And this is going to give it a really cool three-dimensional effect in their whole shape. Because I'm picky, I go back with my white and do a second layer and blend from there as it dries. That way I really have a nice highlight or area of white to really, again, just make it look three-dimensional. make sure my artwork looks balanced, I'm going to do this in another section that's not right next to the one I just shaded or had my gradient. And remember, a gradient is going from dark to light, but you're still just mixing tints. You're just making sure that you kind of go from your dark, you mix your white, and then you blend in the middle. I don't want to waste paint, so I put some of that white paint back on my palette. And then I blend again, making sure to keep the end completely blue and the end of the section of white completely white. And I blend and fade in the middle to create a gradient. Add blue in the other end to make that three-dimensional shape, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. Blue, clean my brush, add the white, and blend to make it fade. Now that you know how to paint a tint and a gradient, I'm going to teach you how to paint a shade. A shade is a base color mixed with black. I'm going to use a dark green for my shades, but you are welcome to use whatever color you would like. And mixing a shade will change the color depending on what color you pick. For example, black and yellow makes kind of this weird green. I actually think it's kind of nice, but students sometimes don't like how the yellow and black looks because yellow is such a weak color and black is so dominant. Think about also how red, if you mix that with black, it's going to get really crimson or garnet. And then if you were to use a color like blue, it's going to turn into more of a navy. Just like with your tints, you're going to mix your shades, always making sure that you clean your brush and you keep your black and your base colors separate. Depending on what color you use, you might not have a ton of variety. Because my green is already fairly dark, I'm not going to get as much of a range of value as I might with a lighter color, but play around with mixing different shades, keeping in mind that every color will react differently. You can absolutely do a gradient using shades as well. You would do the same technique where you put the base color or the black in the corners and kind of fade into. So I would do black in the corners and fade into the light. And again, I'm not getting much variety with my green, but you can see how it does kind of have this three-dimensional shadow effect. And so play around with mixing gradients, knowing that every color will react differently. What if I mixed a shade of blue? Remember, a tint is mixed with white. So if you're mixing a shade of blue, you want to use just the base color and not the section of paint where you mix your tint. The white and black is going to gray out your blue. It really does make a lovely color, but we're trying to keep our sections clear whether it's a shade or a tint. You can do your mixing on the palette or on the paper. You can see me pulling the black paint with my blue, with my shade, and it's giving it that nice gradient. At this stage of a painting, it's really important to keep your palette clean and your brush clean. You have two base colors, you have black, you have white, and you want to make sure that the mixing is very controlled. So don't forget to wash your brush each time and keep your individual colors in their individual sections on the palette. I don't want my green to feel left out. I did shades and tints of blue, so now I'm going to play around with mixing tints of my green. And so I'm going to take that pure green, not the green mixed with the black, not the shade, and then I'm going to fill it in another section, and with a clean brush, I'm going to mix a tint of green by adding white. You can already see that a tint of this green has much more variety of value, and it has a really nice lightness to it. So the fun part of learning how to paint is figuring out which colors react to each other in different ways and figuring out your favorite colors and favorite color combinations. Continue painting until you have a nice balance of tints, of shades, and make sure that your colors have a nice balance to them and they're not all in the same section, but they're spread out kind of in an even way. Look how fast I'm painting, it's like magic. Part 3 of this lesson will show you what to do with the tree itself, so stay tuned, click the next link, and learn how to finish up this Tree of Life acrylic painting.